Alright, here we go. I've got the pattern, the graph set up. I put in the measurements of the quilt, 61 by 69 and a half. Those are the measurements that I will use. I home to the upper right hand corner of the quilt. I've always homed there. That's how I was taught to home there, so that's the way I home. It works for me. And I can always tell when home has moved, and it has moved. So I'm ready now to load my pattern. I've basted it, across the top, down both sides, and I've run a test patch and checked my tension. And everything looks good. So this mark that you see on the laser dot that you see on the screen is 3/4 of an inch to the left of the quilt edge. The quilt edge was at 44 and a half, and I just go up and then I put it 3/4 of an inch, if it would hold still there, 3/4 of an inch from the left side of the quilt. As accurate as I can be with this graph. This graph is not accurate consistently. Okay, now I'm going to use a pattern that I've picked. In this case, it's called Wavy Gravy. Go away, go away. And I'm going to use it at 10 inches, which means that each little box is about a 5-inch square. The blocks are about, the squares on the quilt and the squares in the middle of the stars are about a 4-inch square, 4.5. So a 5-inch square is, to me, symmetrically the same. It's correct. It's kind of a match, relatively. So I'm okay. I want to change this to 10. And then I want to home it. I want to grab it and grab and drop. And that is the left edge and the starting point for the row. Now, when it comes to the row, each one of these, green to red, I call that a section or a segment of the row. So in this case, the row is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, come on, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and I'm going to need 11 because there's a piece up here that's going to come back. All right, there's 11 sections. There's 10 opportunities to adjust this row as I go along. Now, how do I do that? Well, sometimes you can do it if you just know where the start and stop point is and it's a change of direction. If it's a start and stop point that's in the middle of a line, you're not going to find it. So what I do is I group this whole line and I accept it. And then I ungroup it, the whole line, and it comes up with the start and stop for each section, each segment. So then I group it again, only you have to do it one at a time. Okay, now I have to accept that row, and I do not load the whole graph. I don't do it. I load 3 rows. And each row, in this particular case, it was the gap between the rows is good. So in this particular case, it's okay. So I accept those 3 rows. And then I group all 3 rows. But I'm not done. I ungroup all 3 rows. And now I'm going to group the 3 rows again. Only this time, the middle row will be the first row, which I call my working row. The top row is the second row, And when I get 2 rows, I look up here at this number. These 2 rows are 17.5 inches, which means that I will have to advance this quilt on my machine every row. And then I do the 3rd row, which if I could do 2 rows at once, it would be the 2nd working row. But in this case, the working row will be the middle row in almost every line. So then I have to accept that. Now, I've laid out, I'm ready to go, and I go into the working mode, the running view. I'm on the, oops, let me go back. I forgot, I have to. Now I'm going to position, I'm going to grab and drop, and it's going to drop my working row on my 2nd row. Would you switch over, please? Thank you. There we go. Now I will do the 1st row. That will be the 1st row that I do, will be my working row. And then I will do the top section, that's just a partial row. But I will probably just do 1 row now, or in a few, to show you how I maintain the level of the row from one side of the quilt to the other, because it does take some time. It takes some extra time to do a quilt because of this, but it's something that I'm used to. It's something that I do. It's not anything that I particularly am happy about, but it's I have brought it to the attention. I brought it to the attention when we were doing the beta testing on T2, but apparently it wasn't something that was a major concern, and I can understand that on Innova's part, because I have only encountered one other PantoVision user that has had the same problem and adopted relatively the same way to take care of it. We do it a little bit different, but it works for us. And again, it does take a little bit of time, but you will never, ever see me in a hurry. This is a hobby. This is what I love to do. This is what keeps me out of trouble. So that is why I do it. And I am a very, very big fan of Quilts of Valor, if you can understand that. As a matter of fact, this is a Quilt of Valor. It is why we bought a machine. And so doing quilts for quilters is a blessing in my part, because I have met some fantastic people. And fortunately, like I said once before, or I've mentioned before, to do this, you all have to have a touch of OCD. And it's really nice to run across people that have a little touch of OCD. Okay, I will come back and I will start and show you how I maintain the consistency in PantoVision T2, which is consistently inconsistent. I'll see you in a few.